Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Ninja Selling Podcast. Today's episode is going to start with a question, and that is, do you struggle with consistency? The great news is, if that resonates with you in any way, I've got Larry Kendall and Eric Thompson here to chat about it. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thanks, Rob. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you, Rob. It's great to be here. Thanks so much.
So we're talking consistency. Why are we talking consistency? What about consistency consistently shows up in our world?
So, Rob, we have been researching the Ninja Coaching clients who have had their best year yet in 2025. And we interviewed them. We interviewed their coach. We're looking at their habits. We're looking at their activities. The number one correlation between having a best year yet and out of all the things that they do is the fact that they turn in a weekly scorecard.
Yeah.
They are consistent with that. 87% of all the coaching clients who had their best year yet turned in a weekly scorecard. And out of all the things we could measure, that was the thing, again, that had the highest correlation.
If you've been paying attention in your ninjas, so you have been, the last few episodes of the Ninja Selling Podcast have been spotlighting ninjas who had their best year yet. We saw it as an extraordinary opportunity for people to tell their story, but the recipe of how they got there was always consistency. It was something consistently, but what it was varied greatly. They were different markets, different personalities, totally different styles of doing business, but consistency was the theme.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think we've all seen as we coach or manage salespeople, even top producers, a lot of times they'll have a big month, and then they'll have a dry spell, and then another big month, and then a dry spell. And how do you bring consistency to your business where every month is a good month or even a great month? And the key to that is being consistent in your activities.
Absolutely. It's activities repeated over time that really create the results. And I'm sure people have heard of the term habit stacking. And it's not so much about doing the habit once that creates the result. It's about doing them time after time and the results that creates. I think the easiest metaphor would be going to the gym. If you go to the gym once, what happens is you just feel sore and you're reminded that you haven't been to the gym in a while. But if you go to the gym several times a week after week, that's how you get in shape. And so ninjas get in shape. They shape up their business by doing the Ninja 9 activities over and over again. If a ninja were to have 50 live interviews over the course of a week and then do that for 45 weeks in a year, that's 2,250 live interviews in a year. If they did 2 real estate reviews 45 times over the course of a year, that's 90 real estate reviews. Do the same math for handwritten notes, that's 450 handwritten notes. So if someone does all of those activities over the course of a year, they're probably going to have their best year yet.
What you're doing is you're describing my exercise program. I log in how many push-ups. I could tell you how many push-ups I did last year, how many miles I rode on my bike last year. And then all you're doing is tracking it. And it keeps you consistent.
Yeah, that's right. And we know that the research around motivation is that what causes someone to stay motivated is a sense that they're making progress. And you can see progress in the scorecard numbers. And you can see that progress even when you're not seeing results of those activities yet. And I know, Larry, this is something you talk about a lot. We want that instant gratification of the result. And the reality is it takes a while to get the results. But what we can measure is the accumulation of these activities, and we can celebrate that. And we use that in coaching, and we get our coaching clients to notice that progress, and that's what keeps them going.
Here's the hard truth of this. Most agents and most people at large don't fail because they don't know what to do. They fail because they don't do what they know consistently. And the question then becomes, what's the missing piece? I'm going to propose that the answer may be you're not keeping score.
There are 5 ways to stay consistent. Number 1 is to track your activities. Number 2 is to gamify your activities. Number 3 is to join a group. Number 4 is to hire a coach. And then number 5 is to find an encouragement partner. And so the big benefit of the scorecard is that it applies to all 5 of these. It's by definition, you're tracking your activities. By definition, you're gamifying. You can use it in a group of people. Imagine a group of people who are all using a weekly scorecard to track and gamify their activities, and they're all on the same path together. We use it in coaching. It really is the key coaching tool that we have. And if the ninjas listening could find an encouragement partner to share that scorecard with, that's really the key. That's how you become consistent.
So the scorecard is the newest, latest, greatest thing in Ninja, but is it really?
Yeah. We say old school's new school. The scorecard's been around for at least 40 years. I started putting the scorecard together when I was training. It started out with rookies, and then later what I realized was it would work with experienced agents. It would help them get to another level. And we've had the scorecard for a very long time, and we've had great results. Rob, you and I were talking earlier today. Let's take rookies, for example. The odds of a rookie, and these are NAR's numbers, of a rookie having a transaction their first year is only about 27%. What that means is that about 73% drop out. And the 27% had one transaction. They may drop out too. One transaction is not very much. And the second year it goes down, it's even more difficult for them. Typically, the people who started, about 11% make it through their second year. And what we found at the group was we were able to pretty much reverse those numbers. That whereas the national average is 90% don't make it through their second year, we had 90% did make it through their second year. And I would have to say that the thing that I think helped them the most was the scorecard. For all the reasons that Eric mentioned earlier, they're tracking it. It's a game. They've got a coach or a manager or a sales leader that's helping them, or maybe they have an encouragement partner. They're comparing in a group their scores. The scorecard works. We know that.
So what is the scorecard? Eric, walk us through the scorecard and also the history of the scorecard, the evolution of the scorecard, because the scorecard of 40 years ago isn't exactly the scorecard of today.
Sure, the items on the scorecard have evolved. They're all grounded in flow. They're also grounded in building your mindset. But it's a simple way to keep track of your activities that also turns it into a game. And it turns it into a tool that you can show to someone who is an encouragement partner or a coach or a manager. So what the Ninja Scorecard is, what we call it, my weekly flow activity scorecard, it's a way for you to map out the things that are going to move your business and life forward. And you're tracking those and keeping track of those, and then you give yourself a score for each one. For example, every day we're taught to focus on our gratitude. So on the scorecard place, to write down 3 things you're grateful for every day. Part of the Ninja 9 is to write 2 handwritten notes per day. So there's a spot there to write down the people who are receiving those handwritten notes and the reason why you're sending those handwritten notes. And you give yourself a score for those, etc. So at the end of the week, you can look at the scorecard and you can see everything that you've logged in, the people that you've connected with, and in what way. And you can see the score that you've achieved by doing those things, and then you have a total score, and then the total score is out of 100. And so that also becomes a way for you to be able to really give yourself a grade. How did I do? Did I get 92 out of 100 or 85 or 71, whatever it is? And so it's a way for you to really be in tune with how you're doing, and then for your coach, your manager, accountability partner to be in tune with how you're doing.
When we rolled out the scorecard to the group, we have a Friday afternoon mastermind at the group, and we rolled it out. It was the most anticlimactic thing because the people who were tenured in the room said things like, "Didn't this used to be required?" Shout out to Diana Luthai, who is a 30-plus year veteran and schooled me a little bit on the fact that although there's some things, the personal text messages are tracked on the scorecard today and they contribute to your overall weekly flow score. For those of you that are visual and are being driven nuts, not having the scorecard in front of you, just go to ninjaselling.com/scorecard and you can download the scorecard. It's a complimentary resource for all ninjas out there. You can download a printable version of it as a PDF, or there's an interactive version where you can complete your scorecard on your computer through a fillable PDF as well. Both versions are available there at ninjaselling.com/scorecard. So if you have to pause us to pull up the scorecard so that you can continue this conversation, go ahead and do that.
You know what, Rob, we've been saying during the Best Year Yet interviews that we've been doing, we've been saying that the reason why we're doing those interviews is we want everyone to have their best year yet. And we want them to hear how to do it. And the reason why we're giving out the scorecard is we want everyone to have their best year yet, however they define it. And we know that the most effective tool that can be used for them to have their best year yet is to have the scorecard. So we hope that everyone goes there to the URL that Rob mentions and download the scorecard and get it into play, get it into use.
There's a couple of things that are modern enhancements to the scorecard. When we were doing it 40 years ago, there was no such thing as text messages. That's an enhancement that we've added. We recommend at least 2 text messages a day. And the construction of those text messages, it should sound something like this. You came into my mind and then you ask a forward question. How's the family? You came into my mind and how's the family? You came into my mind and how's the new job working out? You came into my mind and we're overdue for a round of golf. Let's get together. Or you came into my mind, are you going to be at the game this weekend? I'll look forward to seeing you. But it's always a forward question. And what happens when you receive a text from somebody with a question? You feel compelled to respond to the question. We're getting virtually 100% feedback on the text message portion, and about 20% are asking for a meeting. So that's an enhancement. The other enhancement, it's basically Ninja 9. We've added the text message component, and the other part is the open house component. People today, they start their search online. If they see something online, about 74% of them, if they live in that community, they'll jump in the car and drive by the house. They'll prowl the neighborhood. If they like the looks of the neighborhood and the house, about 2/3 of them want to get inside. Their preferred way to get inside is with a realtor at an open house rather than calling a realtor and making an appointment. There's less commitment to just go to an open house. And so open houses today are not just looky-loos. They are self-pre-qualified buyers. So we've added that to the scorecard. Also, I think you know about forward conversations, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. But are you recording those conversations? You may have a conversation with somebody and you discover that they're going to become an empty nester in a year. They may want to do something a year from now. Will you remember that a year from now? Probably not. But if you're recording it, as we say, forward and record, then you can put that in your calendar. It'll pop up for you 6 months from now or 9 months from now, and you're ready to go. We have found the scorecard is a great way to stay consistent. It's a great way to generate business.
Eric, I want you to share a little bit here about the versions of the scorecard that may have existed previously. There were a lot of different fragmented tracking tools inside of Ninja. There's some of the tools used in coaching. There's in Ninja 90, there was a version of a flow tracker. In the installation, we talk about different tools as well. And we made the decision that if there's going to be a scorecard, there's going to be a scorecard.
There's going to be a scorecard. And yes, this really cleans up all those versions that have been floating around out there. And hey, those are all good and they work. It's kind of like the best database is the one you use. The best scorecard is the one you use. And this is a way to be consistent and a way for everyone to have the most up-to-date version that we know really works. And to the people who are in a management role listening, what I would tell you is a couple things. And when you use the scorecard, and if you're working to get your people more engaged and more productive, the scorecard is highly useful because what we know in coaching is if you're sitting down with someone and trying to have a coaching conversation with them without a conversation piece, then you're just having a chat. But if you have a scorecard in front of you as you're having a coaching conversation, now you can have a much more useful, valuable, effective conversation because we say, let's take a look at your scorecard. So it's one of the first things we do when we sit down with a coaching client in our coaching meetings is we say, let's have a look at your scorecard. And we also know that having someone who's going to be looking at that scorecard and the agent knowing that someone else is going to be looking at it, that vastly increases the odds of them actually doing the work and doing the activity. When you're using the scorecard, ensure that you have someone to give it to and hand it to, and someone that's going to look at it and acknowledge what's on that scorecard, because that will really motivate you to actually follow through on the activities.
Earlier in this episode, Eric, you talked about the 5 ways to stay consistent. Larry, one of those was find an encouragement partner. I want you to introduce us to Brandy and Megan. but from the context of how the scorecard might be useful in the type of relationship they had to have their best years.
Yeah, Brandy is a top agent at the group, and she was celebrating that she finally broke $500,000 gross commission income, and she's flirted with that number for a while, but she set a goal 5 years ago to break $500,000. She came very close, but she finally did it. And I celebrated with her, and I said, "Tell me, what did you do different this time?" She says, "I had an encouragement partner, and that was Megan." And I said, "Okay, what did you do?" She says, "We got together after the sales meeting. Our sales meetings are on Tuesday. Every Tuesday after the meeting, Megan and I would sit down and compare scorecards and would keep each other on track and would keep each other motivated and would keep each other consistent." And she says, that really made all the difference in the world for me. Now, what's interesting is I then talked to Megan. Guess what happened? Megan had her best year yet. And again, the scorecard combined with the encouragement partner is the key. Now, if you don't have an encouragement partner, your encouragement partner is your manager or your sales leader. But you need somebody to help you be accountable and be consistent.
And one of the things about encouragement partners is there's a lot of aspiration in that relationship. You hope that you're going to stay connected and consistent in the way that you encourage one another. And I feel that the scorecard could be the ultimate leveler of that type of relationship, because it no longer is about the person's capacity to have compassion or something. It's about your ability to quantify your activities and have to look in the mirror, which is actually another human being, and tell them what you did or didn't do that week. And know that with love and respect, they're going to continue to encourage you to up your score next week. And as we talk about scores, let's talk about the tipping point of the score. There's a lot of research that we've done, and in theory, the score you're hoping to achieve is 100 points out of 100 points. But what is the reality for what matters?
The acceleration point is at around 70 out of 100, 70, 71. What we're finding is if you can score 70 points out of 100, you're going to have a successful year. You're going to be listing and selling real estate, and you're going to be doing it consistently. I think that's an important thing to remember, that you don't have to be perfect. I know there are some people that if I can't get 100, then I'm not going to do it. The point is, do something. And if you're scoring under about 40, it's probably not working for you. You're probably not generating any business at all. So the sweet spot is 70 and above.
Let's go above, because Eric, you have people who have consistently scored well above that, but not 100, and it has done exponentially more for their business than just the 70 points.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And 70 is the minimum. And thinking about what Larry said, if you did 12 weeks in a row at 70 points, that's even better than having 2 weeks at 100 and then 10 weeks at 0. That's many more points. And yes, I think the key takeaway is that you don't have to be perfect. You're going to strive for the 100. You want to hit 100, but you don't have to be perfect. But you have to be consistent. It's just those consistent actions. That's where you start to see those results.
I think the other thing that, if you really think about this entire conversation that we're having, scoring, what we're tracking is activities. You know, when Brandy and Megan would get together every Tuesday after the sales meeting, they're not talking about who got the most listings that week or who's ahead in their production. They're talking about activities. Are they doing the work? And what we know is if you do the activities, the production takes care of itself. And for our sales leaders or managers out there, I would encourage you to stop trying to manage production and start managing activity. And the best way to do that is the scorecard.
You know what, Rob? People get so caught up in maybe results that they're not having, and they get frustrated by that, and then they try to manage the result. And it's not possible. We can influence the result, but you can't manage the result. And trying to manage the result only leads to frustration and disappointment. So when you can put instead the focus on the activities and really manage the activities, it really creates a sense of empowerment and a sense of control for that agent. They said, okay, now I'm doing something. I'm focusing on something that I have complete control of. All those things that we mapped out for you on the scorecard, you are in total charge of those things, whether you can do those things or not. And then we know, because we know the system works, we know the results will take care of themselves. What we love about the scorecard in coaching is that it's the truth. It shows the truth. Either someone did those things or not. And if they didn't do those things, then we just get curious about why those things aren't happening. We work to get better as we go along. But the key is to just do it. Just start.
We get it. Ninja 9 and consistency equals the results. Okay, but we're human. Things happen. We fall off. If you've fallen off or you've been inconsistent, what's the best way to start over?
Let yourself off the hook, not give yourself a hard time for missing a week. But what Larry has taught us is that you can miss one. That's okay. That's a mistake. But if you miss two, that's the start of a new habit. So just don't start a new habit. It's okay to make a mistake. You may fall off once, but then get back to it. That's why we like the idea of winning 45 weeks in a year. And so the math that I was doing earlier about how these activities compound, I intentionally do those based on 45 weeks because people can imagine themselves being on purpose, full on for 45 weeks in a year. And then imagining having 7 weeks in a year where they're backing off, not slacking off, they're backing off, they're unplugged, maybe they're on vacation, they're recharging, it's a holiday, the last 2 weeks of the year, for instance, the week of Thanksgiving, for instance. So those 7 weeks are complete recharge. It also allows you a little grace when life happens, because life will happen. Health, family, it's one of those 7 weeks. But for 45 weeks, we're full on. And so when we're coaching people and they have an off week, an effective question to ask is, okay, was that one of the 7 weeks? That week you just had last week where you scored 32 points, was that one of the 7 weeks? And sometimes you get kind of a funny look on the other person's face. They're like, I guess so, but I didn't really think about that ahead of time. So what you want to do is you want to decide ahead of time which of those 7 weeks are going to be the weeks that you back off, and then which 45 weeks are you full on?
Yeah, I think what we want to do is try to help you develop a habit, just like you have the habit of brushing your teeth. You wouldn't think about going several weeks without brushing your teeth, just like you wouldn't think about going several weeks without writing a personal note or a text message or having a Ford conversation or whatever. That's the key to it. Again, I think having the scorecard visual where you log in your activities, think about most of us can relate to a to-do list. And how does it feel when you check something off that to-do list? You get that surge of dopamine. It feels really good. Have you ever done something and forgot to write it on your to-do list, so you write it down so you can check it off, just so you can do that? It's the same concept. It motivates us to keep moving forward, to keep doing the activities. And the same thing will be true with your scorecard. I would have that very visible where you see it, have it out in front. And every time you do something, write it down. You'll get that dopamine hit. It keep you going. And several years ago, a good ninja friend of mine named Ted Allison from the Seattle area came down to see me. He rode a Harley down, and I can still remember the sound of his Harley pulling into our driveway. And I said, Ted's here. And I go out. Hadn't seen Ted in 4 or 5 years, and he steps off his Harley, and he's cut, and he just looks great. And I shake his hand. He about crushes my hand. This guy's the same age as I am. He's in great shape. And I said, Ted, how do you get in such great shape? And he says, I do a lot of things, but I do 100 push-ups a day. And in my mind, I said, I'm going to be like Ted. And the next morning, I jumped out of bed, and I'm going to do 100 push-ups. And I could do 12, and that's all I could do. But then what did I do? I jumped up and ran and looked in the mirror to see if I looked like Ted. Well, it doesn't happen that way. And that day, I started a push-up log. And I've kept it ever since. And every morning when I get up, I do my push-ups. And like Eric said, some mornings I'm not feeling it or I'm late and I miss, but I don't miss 2 days in a row. One day is a mistake, missing 2 days in a row is the start of a new habit. And so you just work at it. And I log it in. I have a log. I have a log for my miles, for my push-ups, for my weights, everything. And it motivates me. And I love it. And I can compare how I did to last year. Again, I'm not focused on my weight or if I'm running my times. I'm focused on my activities. And the results will take care of themselves.
Rob, we encourage people to keep the scorecards. Get a 3-ring binder, get a folder, keep a printed version of these scorecards for 2 reasons. Number one, it's a way to show progress and track your progress and feel good about the progress that you're making. Once you start to see the stack of scorecards, you can say, oh my gosh, look at all these great activities that I'm doing. Look at this progress that I'm making. And then the other reason to keep them is in case you hit a lull or a slump in your business, you can go back and look. So we do that in coaching. If a client happens to be having a slower time, we'll say, okay, let's go back and look at the scorecards from 90 days ago. What was happening then? And no surprise, there was a drop off in activity. So when you print it and keep it in a 3-ring binder or a folder, it's a great reminder. So don't just print it and then throw it away. Keep them.
I love that action item. One more action item for everybody is to go on over to the Ninja Selling Podcast Facebook group, where I'm going to post a picture of Larry and his push-up log there for you to see that it is real. I've seen it myself, and it's going up there. These guys are laughing about it, but we're going to go and do that right now. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I think we introduced the scorecard for the first time in 40 plus years, but it's back. It's here for you. Visit ninjaselling.com/scorecard and know that we'll be talking about this again soon.
As always, we look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. Take care.
If you enjoyed this episode, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com to learn more about ninja selling classes and coaching to get you started or further your journey on the ninja path.
Thank you for joining us. Now go have an incredible day.